Welcome back to Data Center News Asia, and we're back in James's DC Byte office again.
Yeah, back in the saddle.
Arguably the best stocked fridge in the world of Singapore data centers. The cushion one's quite nice, they've got some wine there.
Oh yeah, well one of my very important tasks is to make sure that people are never thirsty, so.
Wonderful. Well, I'm only dehydrated because of my athletic schedule, not the networking events this week at DCD. But let's get into some data center news. All right, well, big story this week. I feel like we've covered this 18 times from different angles, but that's because it's been led up to gossip, but it's now official. There was a nice sort of video from 𝐸𝐸𝐻. So 𝐸𝐸𝐻 and Singtel are fully acquiring ST Telemedia GDC, which is until now has been the platform owned and backed by Temasek on their 9-year journey from being
2014.
12-year journey. I think a lot of the team joined around 9 years ago. But so yeah, they've journeyed from being a small local startup, obviously here in Singapore, to being probably definitely one of the top 5 in Asia and really a global presence for Virtus.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously one of the success stories here. They've gone from, it seems like a lot longer, but it was only 12 years ago that they were set up, and they've now got a platform spanning multiple markets, obviously across APAC, some big, large hyperscale facilities, and some kind of smaller facilities in some of the newer markets, and then they also have the Virtus platform as well, which is doing very well across some major markets in Europe as well. So, yeah, this success made them a pretty prime and attractive target for the likes of 𝐸𝐸𝐻 or Singtel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we were talking about valuations last episode when we discussed the day one IPO process. This is quite. It'd be nice to get behind the scenes of this one and look at some of these, because the deal has gone through 6.6 billion Singapore dollars or $5.1 billion US dollars to acquire the remaining 82% stake. So previously the joint venture 𝐸𝐸𝐻 Singtel, which has the brand Nextra, of course, which I presumably will roll into ST Telemedia here, or vice versa. They owned the 18% stake in the business, and the rest was owned by Temasek. They now bought the rest out. So this here would suggest that they're valuing the platform around $6 billion US dollars, which wouldn't sound anything controversial until you think that these guys have almost 1.7 gigawatts of capacity. Probably that's like booked under construction, and the rest is potential land. What do you figures you got for them?
What specifically?
So this is DCD's figures, so I'm wondering what the DC Byte ones are. So DCD is saying 1.7 gigawatts, and that's accounting UK, Germany, Italy, the Virtus portfolio, and then Singapore, India, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea. So I guess that must be in construction, because Vietnam's not live yet, is it?
No, Vietnam, well, the new part of that deal was included a new development, which that is definitely not live, but they do have capacity by the partner who they entered with. So it kind of depends on how you calculate that, and that's why definitions are so important. But
so the way they've structured the deal, they're actually they're listing the valuation of the company at 10.9 billion US, which is actually about the same as the day one valuation on the Series C. And then obviously they're trying to inflate that for the IPO with new growth. But STT at the moment would be a significantly bigger operating platform than day one, based on the numbers here.
Yeah, that's why you need to really drill down into the definition, so I'm not going to be non-committal on that one until I know where they got those numbers from. No, but listen, it's a significant platform in a lot of attractive markets, both established and ones which are up and coming. So yeah, the valuation, I think, seems fair in terms of what they have and where they're growing. So yeah, I think it's a good deal for all parties, really.
Yeah, so what this could mean for them in the future, it's not really specified here. There's lots of speculation you could do. So 𝐸𝐸𝐻, of course, is one of the world's biggest infrastructure private equity. They actually have Asia's biggest infrastructure private equity fund individually. Alongside GIP and BlackRock, they own CyrusOne, which is a major player in the US and Europe, and they have their own joint venture in Japan. But then now this is STT, and then of course 𝐸𝐸𝐻 Singtel already owns Nextra. They haven't specifically commented on how those three brands will fit together. There are overlapping geographies and customer profiles, so it'll be interesting to see what becomes of it and what the journey is. But it's certainly stepping up into the big leagues of the platform now.
Yeah, well, what we've seen with these kind of deals is that in some instances they've kind of let the two, what some might say, competing platforms run side by side. In some cases, like as per Yonder in Malaysia, they've kind of rolled it up into the sister company. So it's interesting, but I think actually what NextEra have and what STT GDC have is quite complementary actually in the markets where they are both present. So yeah, like I said, I think it makes sense for all parties. This one, KKR will be 75% owners with Singtel 25%, which I think is also worth noting as well.
Yeah, as we know, KKR bringing the money, and Singtel bringing certainly a lot of strategic value and clear synergies with the legacy Temasek connections and stuff as well. So yeah, good, exciting deal for the industry. We love to see these kind of big financial milestones because it's really just proof of concept for everyone else, I think. Speaking of the next big news we had here was Oracle Database at AWS, which is Oracle hosting AWS? No, Oracle hosted on AWS. I don't know which way around this goes. I'm not a software guy, you may have figured this out by now. But they've launched a new region in Australia, AP Southeast 2. So this goes alongside AP Southeast 1, I'm assuming.
No, so that's the AWS. That's the AWS AZ. That's what that stands for. So Oracle Database, yeah, basically allows you to run the stuff. It is on AWS, so that's where the at AWS comes in. But new region in Australia, as you mentioned, AP Southeast 2 in Sydney. This is pretty big news. So I think this specific service is only in 7 markets globally, and only one other in Asia, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's Japan. I don't believe they even have one in Singapore.
No, but they have. I'm pretty sure I've seen the Oracle Azure, because they have this multi-cloud arrangement now with Azure and Google as well. So you can certainly use Oracle Database in most of Asia through these different arrangements. I'm going to start talking because I've already surpassed the limits of my knowledge of how Oracle Database works. Let's just stick to the cloud data center, shall we? Onto another topic that we're stretching the limits of our knowledge here on. So I don't know if about the term NeoCloud, but SHARON AI, who have been getting plenty of press recently, their debt raise and their change in leadership last week. They're deploying 1,000 NVIDIA B200s at NEXTDC's Melbourne data center.
M3, yeah.
Assuming this is a separate announcement to the previous 50
Well,
megawatts.
last week we mentioned the debt, or week before potentially, the debt facility they had.
That was from the sort of crypto-y looking funds.
Yeah, 65 million, which they were saying they were going to draw down. I think it was this quarter. Yeah, I think it was this quarter. So maybe this is part of that. They've used that to acquire these additional 1,000 GPUs.
Yeah, and I think this 50 megawatt expansion agreement that we talked about is part of this as well. So I guess the news here is the deployment of the chips. So
Yeah.
there we go. We'll stop with that one. I'm really sticking to these stories that are at the end.
I skipped that one.
We get more news now about customer off-taking. So this was interesting. So managed hosting provider 20i have taken capacity at an Equinix data center in Singapore. They didn't say which one, but they did note that it was powered by 100% renewable energy. So if you go back to our stories of Equinix PPAs, you can figure out which data center that was. But yeah, so these guys host, they are a service provider who hosts other cloud service providers like WordPress, AWS, and GCP. And yeah, so interesting different kind of customer segments that are working with different operators here. I'll cut that one to another AI one, Zettabyte here. So this is Zettabyte is a Taiwanese-based company who we did report on earlier in the year, doing a partnership with Chief Telecom in Taiwan, and they have raised funding from a company called Headline Asia, and these guys are, they're a GPU as a service provider who are buying capacity in Japan. So you'd imagine they're partnering with specific hyperscalers to give them access to the Japanese market.
Yeah, I think that could be.
As much speculation as.
Yeah, no more speculation. I think that could be spot on.
All right, what's this one in Korea? Because I haven't read this one. This is a big campus here.
Yeah, so this is a story of another kind of mega campus from SGC Energy. So SGC Energy, as the name suggests, is an energy player in Korea, and they're looking to develop 300 megawatts in North Jeolla. I'm not sure how you say it, as you can probably guess, which is in the southwestern part of Korea. So kind of
North South Jeolla.
Yeah, well, obviously out of Seoul being at the north of the country, so this is down probably closer towards Busan. But they're trying to develop this 300 megawatt site with I think it's got like
𝐸𝐸 is the big.
𝐸𝐸
will be the operator.
I would imagine will be the operating partner. Mirai Asset Securities, they're named as one of the, I guess, capital partners. And then it also says that there's an investment bank and a few other parties involved. I believe it's got, it's in an industrial area, so I assume that power is going to be maybe drawn from legacy industrial developments.
They're building a lot of, so STT Green Power and they're building a lot of, so there's wind, there's different hydro, there's loads of different power coming online now. So that's why they're trying to push their centers down there rather than being up in Seoul.
Yeah, so I imagine there's an element of renewables attached to the project as well. But anyway, 2028 is when they are aiming to have this development online, the first phase being 40 megawatts. So another story of capacity kind of being announced outside of Seoul. Whether it all gets developed and it's developed at the scale is another thing, but one we're going to keep an eye on.
Spot question, I should probably be asking Jim when this, but how much now do you reckon, thinking of all the announcements we've had recently, of Korea's capacity is going to be more domestic players than international colos? It seems like they're really taking off at a much faster rate.
Well, yeah, like everyone knows, for international firms, Korea is very difficult to enter, and there's been a couple of success stories, like Digital Edge, DCI, Addict/Actis, whatever you want to call them. But a lot of people have had trouble there, and while others have had trouble, the domestic players, Samsung, 𝐻𝐸, SK, all these kind of guys have
surged ahead. Well,
yeah, no, but they are.
Where are we at now?
No, like depends what definition you're using or what number, but like they're probably 80% of the market still provided by the domestic players, a significant chunk.
Interesting stuff. And you had a couple more that I also missed.
A small one, Bharti Airtel, so they're going to develop a 5 megawatt facility in Janmari, in Agartala, which is on the Bangladeshi border in India. So that's an interesting development. More of these kind of edge style facilities popping up, so one worth mentioning in India here. AWS and Jira, so we announced that they were doing kind of stuff around renewables last year. They're seemingly doing deeper collaboration across a couple of projects in Japan as well, so not a huge amount of info on that, but one, if you're in that space, worth looking at. And this is kind of an interesting one because Ishikari have signed an MOU with NEXTDC for cross-border digital infrastructure. So Ishikari, pretty big Japanese firm, they signed this MOU, which is kind of give, I suppose, NEXTDC a soft entrance into the Japanese market via 𝐜𝐨𝐸𝐬, via developments in 𝐜𝐸𝐬, and so it looks like it's going to be a kind of a cross-border arrangement where various different services are serviced out of Singapore, Batam. I think it was Batam, just said Indonesia, but I think it was Batam they referred to, and 𝐜𝐸𝐬 as well. So it kind of gives each of the different firms an entrance into different markets, which will allow them to offer different services and workloads. So
surprising step out of lane for, I suppose, just looking at NEXTDC in Japan. That was out of character for their usual portfolio and their usual targets.
Well, like they're obviously in Indonesia and Singapore at the moment, but like, I think they do have ambitions to look further afield. And yeah, this just seems to be this is an interesting one just because based on the locations. Like you've got Singapore, obviously prime location, and then 𝐜𝐸𝐬 and Batam, which are two spillover markets, if you want to use that term. So it'll be interesting to see, because this could be the start of a lot of similar kind of deals where you've got the core stuff in a market like Singapore, Tokyo, Sydney, wherever it might be, and then supported by these kind of outlier markets.
Well, I imagine that a lot of the customer base for someone like Italian or NEXTDC is going to be bigger Southeast Asian brand software companies, that sort of stuff. So it's possibly a lot of these kind of colos come from opportunities for them to enter Japan, and good cross-Asia business that we'd like to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, I guess it's a happy Friday, or this will probably out on Monday.
Yep.
Cheers.
Great, thanks for watching.